dad replaced me with his new wife's kids in his will. Now 3 years later, he's begging for help after his divorce, but I refused. I'm 31, male, and I live in a small town in Pennsylvania. Nothing fancy about my life. I work from home as a software developer, take care of my dog Max, and spend my weekends hanging out with friends. My relationship with my dad wasn't ever great, but it was at least functional. But after what happened 3 years ago, everything changed. Now my dad's in the middle of a messy divorce, and he's been begging me for help. You want to know what I told him? No, I'm not about to change my mind. Let me back up a bit. My mom passed away when I was 18. It was brutal, but I pushed through. I went off to college, got my degree, and tried to move forward. My dad, well, he moved on in a way that still blows my mind. A couple of years later, he married Jay, a woman he met at some event. She had 2 teenage kids from a previous marriage, and from day one, it felt like my dad became their dad, not mine anymore. I tried to be happy for him. I really did. I figured, okay, he's found someone new, and maybe these kids need him more than I do. But then things started to get weird. Every time we talked, it was like I didn't exist. He'd go on and on about Jay and her kids, what sports they were playing, what schools they were going to, what family trips they were planning. He was so wrapped up in his new life that I was an afterthought. Didn't even notice when I stopped calling as often. One night, he invited me over for dinner. I thought it would be a nice, normal evening where we could catch up. I walk in, and immediately Jay starts going on about this family vacation they're planning to Europe. Everyone at the table was buzzing about it, except me. No one had mentioned this trip to me, let alone invited me. I sat there stunned. It wasn't the vacation itself that pissed me off. It was the fact that they didn't even think about including me. Like I was invisible. But I let it slide. I thought, maybe they just assumed I couldn't come because of work. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. That should have been the first red flag. Second one hit me like a brick a few months later. My dad's lawyer calls me, saying I need to come into the office for a family matter. I didn't think much of it. I assumed it had to do with some paperwork about the house or whatever. So I show up, and there's my dad, Jay, and her 2 kids sitting in the conference room, looking all smug. The lawyer starts reading my dad's new will, and I'm sitting there listening, not quite believing what I'm hearing. He'd left everything to Jay and her kids. The house? Jay's. His savings? Jay's. Investments? Jay's. Even his retirement? Jay's. And me? I got a small sum of money, like a joke. Slap in the face. Really? Just enough to make it clear that he hadn't forgotten me, but not enough to matter. He had literally written me out of his life. I was too shocked to say anything in that moment. I just walked out of the office and didn't look back. My mind was spinning. How the hell do you do that to your own kid? For months, I couldn't even bring myself to pick up the phone when he called. I waited, like an idiot, for him to reach out and explain, apologize, do something to show me I hadn't been completely discarded. Nothing. Not one word. It was like I never existed. For the next 3 years, I built my life without him. Got a promotion at work, adopted Max, started a new relationship, and built a group of close friends. I didn't miss him anymore. I was doing just fine without him. Then, out of the blue, a couple of months ago, my phone rings. I see his name on the screen. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. He sounded different, desperate, like the world had crashed down around him. And I guess it had. He told me he and Jay were getting divorced. Turns out, Jay had been cheating on him for a while. Now she was gunning for everything in the divorce, thanks to a generous prenup he signed like an idiot. She was going to walk away with half his assets, including the house. I won't lie, when I heard that, I felt a little surge of satisfaction. It was karma, plain and simple. The man who had replaced me with Jay's kids was now being thrown out like yesterday's trash. But what I didn't expect was for him to ask for my help. Let me be clear, he didn't just ask for help, he begged. Financial help, legal help, emotional support, everything. He was screwed, and he was turning to me to fix it. I told him I needed time to think about it, but I didn't. I knew, right then and there, I wasn't going to help him. Not after what he did. But of course he wouldn't take no for an answer. A few days later, he started calling me constantly, pulling out all the tricks. First, he tried to guilt trip me. I'm your father? Say, I raised you. I gave you everything. Don't I deserve something in return? The worst part? He brought up my mom. He said she'd be disappointed in me for abandoning him. My mom, who he barely mentioned after her death, was now his trump card, the thing he thought would break me. But I wasn't falling for it. When the guilt trips didn't work, he switched gears. He started sending me texts every day, acting like the father he hadn't been in years. I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished. I miss you, son. He even sent me a handwritten letter, filled with nostalgic stories from when I was a kid. Family fishing trips, teaching me to ride a bike. He brought it all up, as if trying to remind me of some magical father-son bond that, honestly, I don't think ever really existed. And then came the really dirty moves. He showed up my place one night, completely unannounced. I hadn't seen him in person in years, so opening the door to him standing there, looking all broken down, caught me off guard. Let him in, and we sat down, awkwardly catching up. It was clear he wasn't there just to talk. He quickly pivoted to his situation. How Jay had frozen his accounts, how the bank was foreclosing on the house, how he had nowhere to go. Then, without hesitation, he asked if he could stay with me for a few weeks. I stared at him, trying to process the audacity. This man, who had erased me from his life, who didn't care enough to even reach out for years, now wanted to move into my house? I told him no, and I made it clear it wasn't up for debate. That's when he flipped. Mask came off, and he got nasty. I can't believe how selfish you are. I'm your father. I took care of you for years, and now you can't even give me a place to stay? What's wrong with you? He went on, trying to tear me down, saying I owed him for everything he did for me growing up. I didn't budge. When that didn't work, he moved to plan B. He asked for money, a loan, just enough to cover his legal fees. He knew I was doing well financially, and he wasn't shy about trying to use that against me. He even threatened me, saying if I didn't help him now, he'd make sure I never saw a dime of what was left in his estate. That was supposed to scare me. I laughed. He'd already written me out once, so why should I care? Then he really crossed a line. He reached out to my aunt, his sister, spinning some sob story about how I'd abandoned him during his health crisis. Of course, he left out the part about the will and the fact that I hadn't seen him in years. My aunt, who I love, called me in tears, asking what was going on. I had to explain the whole mess to her, and while she was sympathetic, she still urged me to help him. He's your father, after all. No, I told her. He stopped being a father the moment he decided Jay's kids were more important than me. The final straw? He tried to mess with my job. Called my boss. Yes, my boss. He told him that I had abandoned him in a medical emergency, hoping to get me in trouble at work, maybe force me to take time off to help him. Thankfully, my boss saw through the bullshit and called me into his office to explain what had happened. I was beyond humiliated, but at least my job was safe. After that, I blocked his number, shut down every avenue he had to contact me. But of course, he didn't stop. He started using different numbers, different emails. Hell, he even had some of his friends try to guilt me into helping him. One of them, an old family friend, called me up out of the blue, telling me I needed to be there for my dad, that he was going through a rough time. Like I didn't know that. Like I didn't understand what kind of mess he was in. What none of them seemed to understand or wanted to understand was that he put himself in this mess. He made the choices. He chose to marry Jay. He chose to sign the prenup without thinking. He chose to replace me with her kids. Now that his choices were blowing up in his face, he suddenly remembered I existed. Well, too bad. It wasn't going to be his backup plan. But the guilt trips didn't stop there. A few weeks after I blocked him, I started getting random packages delivered to my house. They were filled with family photos, me as a kid, my mom, my dad, all the good old days he thought would soften me up. It was almost laughable how low he was willing to go. One box had a note in it, written in his shaky handwriting. We were a family once. Don't you remember? We can be again. It was pathetic, really. He wasn't trying to mend the relationship because he cared. He was doing it because he had no other options. He needed a lifeline, and I was his last resort. When the packages didn't work, he tried to go through my girlfriend. Found her on social media and messaged her, saying all kinds of crap about how I was turning my back on my own flesh and blood, how he couldn't believe the person I'd become. My girlfriend, bless her, saw right through it. She blocked him immediately and showed me the messages. That was the final straw. I was done playing nice. I contacted a lawyer just to make sure there was nothing he could do to come after me legally. I wanted everything airtight, no loopholes, no bullshit that could bite me later. Yeah, I felt a little ridiculous sitting in a lawyer's office, talking about my own father like he was some kind of predator. But that's what it had come to. I couldn't take any chances. It turns out, I didn't need to worry too much. Legally, he had no claim to me or my life. The only thing that mattered was making sure he couldn't pull any more stunts at work or with my family. Lawyer advised me to send him a cease and desist letter, making it clear that any further contact from him or his associates would result in legal action. So, that's exactly what I did. I thought that would be the end of it. For a while, it was quiet. No more phone calls, no more random packages. I actually started to relax, thinking maybe, finally, he'd gotten the message. Maybe he realized there was no coming back from what he did. But then came the twist I didn't see coming. A couple of months after the cease and desist, I got a call from my dad's lawyer again. This time it wasn't about money, and it wasn't about his divorce. The lawyer informed me that my dad was seriously ill, some kind of heart condition that had taken a turn for the worse. He was in the hospital and didn't have much time left. Part of me wanted to feel something. Guilt, maybe, sadness, anger, anything. But honestly, I felt nothing. I was numb. The lawyer told me my dad had asked to see me, that he wanted to make things right before it was too late. And that's when it hit me. He wasn't trying to make things right. He was trying to manipulate me one last time, to get me to forgive him so he could die with a clean conscience. I didn't owe him that. I didn't owe him anything. So I told the lawyer I wasn't interested. I said, tell him I wish him the best, but I'm not coming. For the next few weeks, I was on edge, half expecting another round of guilt trips or sob stories. But nothing came. Guess when death is staring you in the face, you finally realize there's no point in fighting. A few weeks later, I got the call that he was gone. Just like that, it was over. I thought I'd feel relief, maybe some kind of closure. But all I felt was empty. Not sad, not happy, just nothing. And I guess that's the real tragedy here. My dad had the chance to be a father, to be in my life, to build a relationship that mattered. He threw it all away for Jay and her kids, and in the end, he was alone. I haven't been to his grave. I don't think I ever will. What's the point? He made his choices, and I made mine. He's just a part of my past now. Nothing more. Funny thing is, people keep telling me I'll regret not forgiving him, that one day I'll wake up and wish I'd been there for him at the end. Maybe they're right. Maybe one day I'll feel something. But right now, I don't. And I'm okay with that. So yeah, that's the story of how my dad replaced me with his new wife's kids, wrote me out of his will, and then tried to crawl back when everything fell apart. Life's funny like that, isn't it? If you made it this far, I guess you're as stubborn as I am. Maybe subscribe. You never know, my next story might be even messier than this one.